Well, Lebanon's resistance movement Hezbollah says it will continue its battle against foreign-backed Takfiri militants, that is, in Syria. The Hezbollah Deputy Secretary General Sheikh Naim Qassem has said the group's involvement in Syria is aimed at stopping the spillover of violence into neighboring Lebanon. He also accused Israel of supporting the foreign-backed insurgents. Sheikh Naim Qassem condemned the terrorist attacks by the al-Qaeda-linked groups in Lebanon and called on Hezbollah supporters to stay strong against such threats. Al-Qaeda-linked militants have carried out several bomb attacks in Lebanon in recent months, killing many civilians. To discuss that further, we're now joined by Ali Rizk, Press TV's correspondent, who's joining us live now from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Now, Ali, tell us, just to run down a bit of a summary of what Sheikh Naim Qassem exactly said.
Well, as we discussed before, the timing of these statements are of high significance. It's a clear message to the militants who have carried out these attacks, who have declared responsibility for the suicide bombings and the car bombings which have targeted several places throughout Lebanon, including southern Beirut and Hermel, the northeastern city near the border with Syria. It's been some time since a high-ranking Hezbollah official delivered such a message to these extremist groups, and so that's where the significance of these statements come. Sheikh Naim Qassem clearly telling the extremist groups that regardless of these attacks, Hezbollah will continue to be involved in Syria where its involvement is deemed necessary, and hence repeating what Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah Secretary General, said in one of his speeches as well. So that's where the importance of Sheikh Qassem's statements lie. And, as we were saying, it's a message being delivered to the extremists, at the same time a message delivered to the people who live in southern Beirut and elsewhere, to Hezbollah supporters, to continue with the same morale, not to be deterred, not to be negatively impacted by these extremist groups, irrespective of their attempts and of their attacks. Also, for example, when he said that all measures are being taken to lessen the repercussions of these attacks, hence indirectly Sheikh Naim Qassem was pointing out to enhanced security measures taking place in Dahi and elsewhere by Hezbollah along with the Lebanese army to prevent these extremists from carrying out more attacks. And I think it's important that at the same time we're seeing more and more security achievements made by the Lebanese army when it comes to arresting high-ranking or very high important symbolic terrorist figures like Majid al-Majid, Jamal Daftardar and others. Other security plots, for example, were uncovered and were prevented before the attacks were able to take place. And so I think it's just one more chapter in the long series now of the confrontation between Lebanon and the terrorists, and specifically between Hezbollah and these terrorist groups. This confrontation which erupted when the terrorists decided to target Lebanon and to bomb Lebanon. I think that you're going to hear more about this confrontation next Friday, when we anticipate a speech by Hezbollah Secretary General Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, who hasn't spoken for quite some time now. He is also expected to deliver a major speech whereby the fight against extremists and against Takfiris will probably be on top of the list.
And Ali, tell us about those areas which are Hezbollah strongholds. As you mentioned, Dahiya is one of them, of course. Are people there feeling secure now, or is there a feeling of insecurity in the air at this point?
Well, in the end, some people, after we had these consecutive bombings, there was some unease, and it is only natural. Human beings would feel not at ease in such situations, particularly when the time frame separating the consecutive bombings was short. There was some fear amongst the people, but if you look at the situation now, particularly with the Lebanese army, as I said in the answer to the previous question, making these big arrests, and after plots were thwarted, and after the al-Qaeda affiliates weren't able to successfully carry out bomb attacks after the previous ones, there is now a new atmosphere in Lebanon, and there is a general consensus inside Hezbollah's areas, and this is something we mentioned before. Hezbollah's supporters support Hezbollah's policy of fighting in Syria, irrespective of what happens here. They believe that Hezbollah's involvement prevented the terrorists from carrying out more and more, meaning had Hezbollah not intervened, then the terrorists would have had more free will and room to carry out much more numerous and more deadly attacks inside Lebanon. So the Hezbollah supporters, they support the Hezbollah policy of this fight against terrorism inside Syria before the terrorism comes and takes a foothold in Lebanon. And there is now, especially after in these latest days, there is a new sense of confidence amongst the people, confidence that indeed Lebanon is beginning or is winning actually this war on terrorism, and that these security measures are starting to bear fruit and preventing future successful operations from being carried out.
Okay, Ali, thanks very much for that.